Okay, call me crazy, as many have, but I'm a little bit interested in going deep sea fishing for some bigger fish, and the thought struck me that I might need a harpoon. Well, I've looked at some of those harpoons and I'm not sure that that's the way I want to go. So what I've done is I've purchased some 5/16 stainless steel rod, and I have this homemade coffee can forge, and using MAP gas I've been curling the end so that perhaps I can make a dart out of this instead of buying a large harpoon. So we're going to try to bend the tip into a loop here. I've already gotten started. As you can see, this is red hot, and it does bend nicely. And now I just need a little loop. Let's see, let go around there. Yep. Set it down like this and close it over that. Go, that looks pretty good. I can always take the stainless welder and weld that completely shut. We'll use that to fasten our rope to. And now I'm going to bend it back a little bit to center the loop. There we go. Now that loop's centered. Looks good. We'll let it cool. And on to the next part of the project. Now I'm going to polish it up a little bit. There we go. That looks good. Now what we want to do is try to weld that loop closed. Some gas. See what our settings look like here. Hot enough for stainless. Let's make an adjustment. There's quite a bit of mass to that, but we'll grind it down and see how it looks. Now that we've got a good weld on there and some grinder action to make it smooth, we want to take and file that inside loop to remove any line cutting characteristics to the weld. The Dremel will probably Dremel some of that down and then file. That's next. Okay, for the next part, you can see I've taken and I've drilled a hole through this, and what will happen is this will come down and be the stopper. It's my test handle, and it'll center it in the handle, and then that will be your handle for throwing the harpoon. We'll make a tip for that. We'll weld a washer on there, and then weld a washer behind so it doesn't move. And then we'll also weld some washers on here to center within the tube so that it's not moving so much, right? Like that might be enough, but just to be sure, I'm going to place some alignment washers on this as well. So the backstop washer is going to be this 1-inch washer. It's a fender washer. As you can see, it fits right into the 1-inch PVC pipe. And I believe this is for a 1/4 inch bolt, but our shaft is 5/16, so I'll have to put it in a vise and drill out to the right size, then slide it on the shaft, and then we'll weld that. Alright, so let's drill this out to the right size. Let's use a step bit to progressively increase. Nice tight fit. That's going to work. Now we'll weld that up. Okay, we're going to use the vise and some support to try and get us a good right angle on this spot welded. Pretty good. So repeat the process. We'll drill this out. One of my thoughts is to take and melt some lead around that to give it some length. Welder. So I'm going to have the stopper on this side, so I want to weld on this side so that's nice and smooth. Now the way this is going to work is I'm going to have the stopper go all the way to that, and then it will fit into our handle like this, and the washers will help center that, and then the stopper will be like that. And I'm going to put one more welded fender washer here to hold this in place, and hopefully spot welding it won't burn up my stopper too much. Our fender washer cut to the right size. There we go. Easy as that. That. Okay, so clearly that heated up the rubber, but it didn't really deform it too much. And slide our handle on, the washer center it, and now you can see how it fits in, and that will allow us to plug the fish and then have that pop out if necessary, and the handle will ride the line as needed. Now the question is what kind of tip to put on this, right? So you could do this several ways. You could just flatten this out with your forge and create a barb. You could bend it, back on itself, then flatten it, and that leaves a pretty big barb. Sharpen it. You could take a piece and create a V and weld that onto the end. I'm not really in favor of that. So I think what I'm going to do is heat this up, bend it over, then flatten it out, maybe weld some of that to create a good centerpiece, and then I'll sharpen it into a harpoon. So we got our rod in there. We're going to heat it up, see if we can't bend it into a J-hook. Okay, nice and red. Let's get it to bend back on itself. Yeah. Maybe the way to do it is to put it in a vise. Okay, so we're getting closer. Let's see how this does. That's more of what I want it to look like. And then I will spring out the end a little bit. Now what I want to do is flatten out the front so it becomes sharp. So you can see that that's beginning to split a little bit more, and that's the barb that I want to create. pretty close to what I want it to be. So the rest of it is probably grinding because I don't want to make it too thin. So now hit the grinder. So just to show you, you can see with the grinder I've begun to get this into the profile that I want of a sort of an arrowhead, right? And you got to remember that the plan is not to use this to kill the fish, right? The plan is to snag the fish in something they can't get out of. And so plenty of barb to get in there. We've kind of profiled the one side. We'll profile the other side now, and then at the end we'll work on sharpening. Okay, now I don't know if you can see that very well, but you can see that this is sharpened down. It's got a good profile. It's something where there's some burrs on the edges, but it is, I think, sharp enough that it could penetrate a fish with some force behind it. And again, we'll clean it up a little bit. We'll profile it a little bit more. We don't want to make it too thin, but it's one of those things where it probably needs to be sharpened every time we go out. It's not one of those replaceable tips, but still, I think, not a bad job for a couple days in the shop with a homemade forge, some lightweight vise and anvil, and a little MIG welder. Okay, going to take a file, just get a nice edge on that. Yeah, that's legit sharp. All right. Maybe like a watermelon or something like that to test it on.